Welcome everyone to another episode of Just Being Candid. I'm your host, Candid, and today we have a very special guest and a very great show. I have a doctor on the show. It's the first doctor I'm having on Just Being Candid, and not only she's a doctor, she's a great friend and colleague of mine. So I have to read the bio because I want people to know a lot more about my guests outside of me just bragging and boasting about the great things that they do. So today we have Dr. Amanda Sullivan. She's a researcher, educator, and author who focuses on development strategies for breaking gender stereotypes and equability, engaging children in STEM from an early age. She's a senior researcher at National Girls Collaborative, a nonprofit organization focused on gender equity in STEM. Amanda holds a master's and PhD in child development from Tufts University, where she worked with the DevTech's research group on the creation of many educational tools, apps, and products for young children. She's the author of the book Breaking the STEM Stereotype, Reaching Girls in Early Childhood, and co-author of the forthcoming book, Playful STEAM Learning in the Early Years, an educator's guide to screen-free explorations, available for pre-order now. Her work has been featured in Geek Wired, Wired magazines, the New York Times, and more. And I'm honored to have her here on Just Being Candid. Ladies and gentlemen, Amanda Sullivan.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I'm honored.
I'm honored to have you, the first doctor. I just realized I'm like, oh, Amanda is a doctor. This is the first doctor on my show. I'm
But
gonna
I
brag
not
about
the
that.
kind that can help with
Right?
any medical emergencies. I always have to clarify that. Not really useful in that capacity.
No, but definitely useful when it comes to early childhood development. And I was kind of like, people may not know this, but I have this really crazy flash in front of me, this flash ring in front of me, and I was really like trying to push through that bio because
The
so I
bios
couldn't
are
see a
hard.
thing. I couldn't see a thing. Like all I saw was like dots, like flash dots. It was like, oh my goodness, this is really bright. But
You
welcome to
got
the show.
it.
Thank you. So for those who don't know, Amanda was a colleague of mine at National Girls Collaborative Project. We worked together on several projects, a lot of virtual webinars, and we was able to like build a great chemistry and great relationship. We went no, we haven't been to many conferences. We went to one conference together, but you know,
Yeah.
Amanda's great things. I see her with her kids on Instagram, doing different fun recipes, putting like a small thought in my mind, like, oh, I want a kid. And then it goes away. And then it goes away because I think about cleanup time. But Amanda, before I start the show, we get into what you do, when we get into your amazing book that you have available for pre-order now. I like to start the show, and I didn't tell you, but I like to start the show with like a candid moment. And is there anything that right now when it comes to like this book, is it like what are you feeling right now when it comes to like the release of like your second book?
Yeah. Ooh. I think I actually just feel really happy and excited to start talking about it. And I think compared to my first book, which I wrote by myself, this book was co-written with like one of my best friends, colleagues, work wife. Her name is Amanda Strawhacker. You can all look her up. She has a TEDx talk. She's brilliant. And I think the process of writing it with her was fun, as a book about play should be. It was joyous and playful for us. And I think it just at the heart of it, I'm a collaborator. And so I working with someone else gives me a boost of confidence. So I think I feel actually less nervous than I did with my first book, which was just me, my perspective, my research. And I feel really just confident and excited with this book coming out with her. And then kind of selfishly, it gives us all these chances, me and her, to do things together around the book. So I'm so looking forward to that. We're like the kind of people, kind of like you and me, Candid, where we work together for one period of time, but we always are trying to find ways to keep collaborating as the years go on. So we worked together for a long time at the DevTech Research Group, and now we're always finding ways to keep working together. And so having the book comes out means that we get to do presentations together. We get to do in-person events together. We get to get our kids together. And so I'm really excited and amped up for that part of the book coming out, maybe more than the other part where people write reviews and can be critical. But I'm just feel proud that we did this together, and it's with someone that I really love and respect.
And no matter the review, it's going to be great reviews, but no matter the review, just keep in mind they got the book already.
That's true. You
Nothing
had
you
to
can do
pay
about
for
it.
it to write the review. That's I remember
Nothing
someone said that to me with the first book too. Like, well, they bought it,
They
so
would it. Exactly. Exactly. And then someone might be like, let me see for myself. So but it's gonna be an amazing book. So you are a researcher and you have a love for STEAM, all things STEAM STEM.
Mhm.
So how did when did that spark with your interest in STEAM come into play?
That came into play in adulthood for me. I
Wow.
I was not a STEM kid growing up. I did love nature. I grew up on an island, so I was really interested in marine life, but it wasn't like an area that I was nurtured or encouraged into. And I would say actually I struggled with my confidence around math and science subjects growing up. Wasn't really introduced to technology and engineering at all growing up. I was really into the arts and that side. That was something I was really encouraged in. But I really struggled with my confidence. And I had a lot of negative experiences actually in school and just in life around, especially math is something that I can remember struggling with. And yeah, it's this area where I've always not felt that I was good enough or that I was a math person or a STEM person. And I think that I became interested and confronted some of those beliefs about myself just in graduate school and in work that I was doing, as I was seeing young children experience kind of the same thing that I had experienced. Then that's when I was like, okay, there's a whole nother layer to this. What's going on here? Why is this next generation of girls still kind of struggling with some of the things that I struggled with? And that got me really interested in STEM from that research lens and perspective. And then along the same, at the same time, you know, teaching and being with young kids and rediscovering that joy, rediscovering that fun, playful learning that I didn't necessarily have growing up with math and science. I was getting to kind of have that again with kids that I was working with.
So I mean that's interesting that it started in adulthood. So but then that led you to research why. So what is it about research that you really love? Because um it's not my cup of tea, So like because you have to really love to read through articles, um, you know, well more than Google, but just find all the different resources that you can to get like a good theory or a good enough sense on what the solution can be to the problem. So where did that researcher love come from?
These are such great questions that I haven't thought of all of these things, but I would say I was always a person that questioned things. And like
Mm,
I loved science fiction growing up. I still love science fiction.
really?
And my brother, he's in journalism now, but he was a philosophy major. So just think of the conversations we would have, right? We would question the meaning of things, why things happen the way they do. And I think I also love a good mystery. So I think
Mm.
research is kind of like a good mystery. It's about asking questions and finding the answer to them in different ways, whether it's conducting your own experiment or intervention or reading through all of these articles like what you were talking talking about and seeing what happened in different contexts, what different people found. And I think it's sort of like putting together a puzzle, which I also really like to do. I
I
love
love puzzles
puzzles.
too.
I'm piecing it together as you ask me the question. And so I think that's something that I really love about research. And I credit a lot of my love of research to a couple of undergraduate professors I had. So I studied psychology and drama in undergrad, and as part of that I took a lot of developmental psychology education related stuff. I worked at our on-site preschool, which I think was one of my first loves of being in the early childhood classroom. But psychology really is about understanding the human condition and how the mind works. And I also took social psychology, so there were all these questions, and that's kind of was my first introduction to research. And I realized I did have a lot of questions about things that I thought like I would be able to answer through experimentation. So just, I guess, for example, when I was an undergrad, so just, this will give a sense of my age, but social media was new kind of when I was going into college. So I was really interested in how that social media experience was changing young people's identity, my own at that time. I was a young person in college. And so I worked with a professor and I did some research on that. And I think that actually was probably my first interest in research around technology. Later, it evolved into ed tech, and then, working more with younger kids, connecting to that side of what I love to do. But I think it was all about those psychology classes, those professors that really were the first to really encourage me academically to pursue something that seemed like hard work, research, to push myself to learn statistics and things that I wasn't confident in. I wasn't used to that kind of encouragement, and I definitely found a lot of that in college.
That's good to have a support system. Listening to you with that answer, it just made me think about, so like the statistics when it comes to girl in STEM, there's not a lot of girls in the classroom. When it comes to like engineering, science classes, mathematics classes. Um, with you in particular, like in college, you have those mentors and you're doing those um, research papers and working on these different projects. Were you like one of a few women in the class, or was it like different because it wasn't like a specific like engineering program and things of that? I know you said statistics stuff like that, but were you like one of few, or was it like an even amount for you?
So because I was studying psychology, which is predominant, women are
Mhm.
overrepresented in the social
Gotcha.
sciences, right? So I would say there were more girls, or it was even. I can't really
Okay.
remember now. I did in graduate school, accidentally. I kind of like enrolled in the wrong course. It didn't fulfill something that I needed to fill. It was this whole dramatic thing, but I wanted to take a refresher statistics course before getting into these advanced data analysis courses that I needed
Mhm.
to take. And the one that I could take that summer was through the math department. So it wasn't through the social sciences, it wasn't through psychology, it
Uh,
was through the math department. And I'm trying to remember, I still think it was pretty evenly distributed, maybe, but it was definitely a hard experience and was really confronting my stereotypes about myself and my abilities and my confidence, because it was just, equations, doing things by hand, writing everything out, things that always really stressed me out when I was in school. And so it was good. I confronted that again in my adulthood. But yeah, generally, most of the courses that I've taken have been through the social sciences. So more mixed or more women.
okay. So, what drew you to focus on early childhood education rather than working with older students?
Yeah. Sometimes I tell people, once the kids are taller than me, all bets are off. Like they're not going to listen to me. I can't do it. They won't think I'm funny or cool anymore. I
That's the
definitely,
thing,
I have done work with teens over the years. I love teens, but I find them intimidating. And the height is part of it. Once I'm like this, it's just too much. I like getting down on my knees with young kids, but that's the funny answer. But I do just love that curiosity of young children, the energy, the why questions that they're always asking. They're little researchers, just like me. They're trying to figure out the world, and their playfulness. That all of that really energizes me, and I think it keeps me young. It keeps me having fun, and so I think that preschool, toddler through early elementary age has just always been my favorite age group to work with. And then I think maybe on a deeper level, since this is the Just Being Candid podcast, I can be a little candid and say, I think I enjoy working with young children, especially having these fun, playful experiences, because I didn't always have that growing up. I had a lot of, like I mentioned, some of my struggles academically in school, and then I had a lot of things going on. We were impacted by homelessness for most of my early life. And I think that, plus some other external family and external factors, meant I didn't always have that joyful, playful experience in my own childhood.
I wanted to know, why is early childhood such a critical time to introduce STEM and STEAM concepts?
Good question. Well, I would say early childhood in general is an important early childhood education is an important foundation for future cognitive, social, emotional growth. It's a time of rapid brain development. It's a time, like you said, where children are sponges, asking so many questions. And so the early years are just an important part of early learning and development in general to set kids up for success later on. And then when it comes to STEM and STEAM are about asking questions. It's about understanding how things work. So the early years are a perfect time to build on that natural curiosity that we've already been talking about kids asking those why questions and wanting to understand how things work. It's a natural time to begin introducing these concepts. And especially things like engineering and technology now, kids are growing up in this in a more tech-rich environment now than ever before. So being able to answer some of those questions and help them explore these questions and learn about their human engineered environment as well, I think is really, really important. But as far as STEM and STEAM, kind of specifically why it's important to reach kids early, the other piece is that young children are already starting to form their beliefs about what they're good at, who's good at this, who should be doing math and science, what it means to be a science or math person. And there's research that shows that as early as age 6, kids are forming stereotyped beliefs, especially around girls, around computer science and engineering, and that these stereotypes are present through multiple ages in adolescence and throughout their childhoods. And so the early years are an important time while kids are forming these beliefs, or maybe before they're forming these beliefs, to give them positive early experiences with STEM to counter these stereotypes, to build their confidence and curiosity, to really ensure that all kids are kind of having equitable first experiences with the sciences.
That's amazing. So, what? Oh, sorry, my computer keeps freezing. Technology.
Uh-oh.
Speaking of technology,
Speaking of technology.
so you have your book that's coming out that's available for pre-order. Um, Playful STEAM Learning in the Early Years: An Educator's Guide to Screen-Free Explorations. So, which is important, screen-free explorations. My question is, so in your research, when writing the book with your co-author Amanda, what
The
strategies
Amandas.
the Amandas? So, what strategies have you found most effective in breaking down like gender stereotypes in like early STEM learning?
Yeah. So in our book, we focus one of the barriers that we try to address, and kind of one of the reasons why we wanted to focus on screen-free approaches and explorations, is that as much as there are all these wonderful technologies and digital tools out there, we both came from an ed tech background. So we have a love of apps, coding applications, robotics kits, things that we've both worked on. We know that even in this digital age, access to technology and the internet is still a barrier for so many schools, districts, and families. And that we wanted to create approaches that would be free, low cost, easy to implement, and kind of reduces that barrier, even when introducing kind of high tech concepts, things around coding and computer science, computational thinking, things like that. And the other piece that we are working on is just making that exposure more fun, playful, and artistic. So we are reaching more kids who don't necessarily think of themselves as already a STEM person or a tech person. So that was one of the other pieces. And then the other thing that we're doing with this book, and then I can circle back and answer your question about strategies for reducing or overcoming those stereotypes that you asked about, was we're trying to just bring back play, because play is being cut out more and more from kids' early learning experiences, their home experiences, their life in general. And it's really hard to overstate the value of play. And so going kind of screen free addresses those barriers around cost and all of that around technology, but also gets back at the heart of it. It's a book about play, and we wanted to get back to those unplugged, screen-free play experiences with STEM and STEAM, the arts, infused. And then do people ever do this on your show? They start talking and they're like, what was the question originally? The question about strategies.
It's a conversation.
Yes, that's life. That's just talking with me. I kind of am like, I say one thing and I'm like, what was the original question? My first book, I think it's more into those strategies around addressing gender stereotypes, but I can just mention a couple of them. I think role models are a big thing. And so being able to see diverse women or girl role models doing in STEM can help counter stereotypes kids might have around what it means to be a STEM person. What do they look like? What are their jobs and their experiences like? And can really kind of humanize the STEM experience when you see a real person who also has hobbies and pets and things that young kids and girls can relate to. And role models don't have to just be a person coming in. It can be in a book, in the media, in movies. And one thing that we do put in this new book is we have a list of recommended picture books for STEM with young children, and we really tried to find diverse representation in those books. So I think that's a big one. Talking about stereotypes when they emerge, that is an effective strategy to kind of, instead of brushing it under the rug, call it out and talk about it with your kids. And then exposure. And that's where I think Playful STEAM really comes in, because there's still research, as from the 2020s, that show that parents more frequently encourage their boys, their sons, to do STEM play, including like STEM toys and technology and games, than their daughters. There's research that has shown that boys have more experience with things like tinkering and building in their early childhoods. So I think having this fun, playful, art-infused approach can help make these things more accessible to more kids, so that more kids are having those experiences in their early years.
And I agree when it comes to getting off the screen and just learning how to play. Because it gives you different skills that you're going to need in regular life. So I'm glad you do have more like, is a screen free activities. And speaking of activities, like, do you have any favorite activities that's in the book, or a favorite chapter that you want to share with us?
I do. I think we mentioned this a few places in the book. I'm not sure exactly which chapter, but one thing we talk about in the book that I love is sensory play. So if you go on my Playful STEAM Instagram, you'll see that my daughter loves anything slime, Play-Doh. She loves that open-ended sensory play. So I'm really glad we were able to talk about that in the book and talk about the benefits of that kind of play and exploration for young children. And so my favorite thing probably that we have in the book around that is we talk about slime. And I was a 90s kid. We love slime from
Mhm.
Nickelodeon, and I've
Yes.
always loved all different types of slime, and my daughter loves slime too. So we use this activity of slime as an example that we return to a few points in the book to show how you could use slime with different age groups. What are the different questions or learning goals you might have from a toddler who's just having, cause and effect play with it, to an older child that's learning about the properties of slime and how it's not exactly a liquid or a solid, it's a non-Newtonian fluid. And so we kind of return to the idea of slime a few times in different points in the book. And then we have a recipe for slime that people could try if they want to
Yes.
just do something right away. I feel like that's a fun one. And I
No,
just love anything squishy, sensory. I still love it as an adult.
no, kids love slime. After we did the lip gloss activity yesterday, because I was working with the girls
Hmm.
yesterday, so we give them surveys and we ask like, what's some of the things you want to do, and like 3 girls wrote down make slime.
Really? And wait,
Mhm.
how old were those girls?
These are middle school, so anywhere
Wow.
between like whatever sixth, seventh, eighth graders. So I guess like 12 through 14 probably, or something like that. Yeah. So that was interesting because one girl wrote it like took the whole box and put slime. Thought that was funny.
Wow. You're never too old for
Interesting. Yeah,
slime.
it was
There
interesting how
was
you said that.
There was this place when we used to live in Hawaii. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was basically like a slime lab. It was really
Oh
cool. You walk
wow.
in and you pick what type of slime you want to make, and they give you all the ingredients. And then they had this wall, almost like a candy shop set up with all these things you could mix into your slime. And so you could go up with your slime and add little gems or glitter. And it was the cutest, coolest place. I have to find
Oh
out if there's
wow.
something like that around here.
Yeah, I love well, let me not say I love slime. It was like with you, I grew up on Nickelodeon, but I
Mhm.
always wanted to be on Double Dare.
Me too. Me too.
Go to the ear canal and
Yes.
all that stuff. Get slime. Like I always wanted to go on Double Dare. Like always wanted to go on Double Dare. But that and this has nothing to do with like kid stuff. That and supermarket sweep. I always wanted to be in the supermarket
Oh, yeah.
sweep.
I
But
think they made a new Double Dare with Liza Koshy because my kids
oh
and I
really?
watched that. I was like, "Oh, maybe my kids will go on Double Dare." I never got to do it. Well, because it's siblings. I think there's also like, is there
The
one where
family?
parents go with you, family
Yeah,
Double
the one I
Dare?
grew up on was with your whole
Families, I think.
family.
This one, it seemed like from the episodes we watched, it was all just kids, like friends
Oh,
or
I didn't know it was
siblings,
back
but
out.
I wanna go on.
I didn't know it was back out. Ladies and gentlemen, I have no children, so I'm not on Nickelodeon. Um, Only if I see like my baby cousin Bluey, like I have Disney, we share it, and
Bluey,
all I
love
see is
Bluey.
Bluey all over my screen. But you are a mother too.
Mhm.
Um, you have a son and a daughter, so two different personalities, I'm
Yeah.
assuming. But how has parenting influenced the way you think about playful learning? Like, has it been a big part of how you um, wrote the book since you have children?
Yeah, it has. I think my kids really influence so much of my work and the things that I do, and they have always, even before this, tested every product that I've ever worked on. I always will say yes to any like contract role that involves evaluating an app or a toy or a book for young children, because then I realize I'm getting paid to just play and do something with my
Mhm.
kids, and that's so important to me to have the time with them. But I think it really has a couple things. So I think that I've learned to really recognize the importance of parents as kids' first and primary educators, especially for those first 5 years, but really they're an important part of kids' whole journeys, and that the home environment as a place for playful learning and discovery. Because before that, for a decade, I was working in schools, in camps, in labs, and in teaching roles. And that's just a really different environment than playful learning at home. And so I think I really value that. And in this book, even though it's called an educator's guide, it was published by Teachers College Press. We do have a focus on educators and teachers. We talk about home settings. We give examples of doing everything in the book in home settings. You'll see so many pictures of my kids and my co-author's daughter throughout the book doing different activities and things and approaches that we talk about. So they really have their fingerprint on this book. And I think I've also, like, parenting and having my own kids has helped me really recognize the value of child-led independent play in a new way, and the type of learning that happens when kids are really asking the questions, leading the experimentation, figuring out what to do or how to change things, and really taking the lead in their playful learning experience. Because I think as a teacher, as an educator, or even, I spent so many years as a nanny. So that was still in home
Wow.
settings, but I was very much, I'm paid to be here with you. I'm leading this really step by step. And being a parent, because sometimes you are multitasking, you're doing
Right.
dishes, you're doing work. Your kids are doing more independent play than they would as a nanny or someone who's always there with the kids. And so I've really gotten to see the value in that child-led independent play, and just learned a lot. Like you said, they're very different. They have different learning styles. They have different approaches to play. They have different things that they like to do. And so it has also helped me recognize the importance of, kind of, as much as you can, catering and encouraging those different approaches to play and approaches to learning.
Have you created an activity that you want to see if it was going to work? Has there been any activities where you did with your kids that you might was like, I might try this for the book. Let me see if my kids will like it, and it just completely bombed?
There's a lot of activities where I thought it would go a lot longer, and then it was like 10 minutes. They weren't asking any more questions, and so then I had to rethink. Um, you know, if there was supposed to be deeper inquiry there, why didn't we get to it? Why wasn't that curiosity piqued? And then there's a lot of things where the age difference between my two kids kind of is what makes it work or not work, because my son is in first grade and my daughter's in pre-K. So there'll be something where he'll make a prediction, he'll be correct, it will happen, and then he'll be like, okay, that's it. And my daughter will still be really fascinated and want to try it a few different times, and it will last a lot
Mhm.
longer with her. So it kind of helps me see uh, the right age range that things and activities are for. And then, what else we have experienced is a lot of failed experiments. And I have all this B-roll that I want to put up. So I need to edit
You
it together for my
should.
channel of we follow things step by step and the experiment doesn't work. And we're trying to figure out why it doesn't work. So we have those frustrations which are healthy, good part. I try to model that for my kids. It's good when it doesn't work because we really get to figure it out, but lots of fails. We have lots of fails on experiments and activities uh, all the time, weekly.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering, I was like, I wonder if she had an experience. She was, and they were like, mm-mm, this is not fun. So, like I mentioned, you are a mom, you're a wife, you're an entrepreneur, an author. You work 9 to 5, but you're a mom first. But how do you find that balance? If there is a balance where everything's not colliding, you're making sure that you know your children are getting enough or more than enough for you. Your husband's getting what he needs to get from you. You got family and friends. So how do you like kind of keep it like somewhat balanced? There's nothing. I don't believe anything in life can be balanced, but you find like a good groove. So how does that
Mhm.
happen for you?
I think, like you said, it's never a perfect balance, at least not for me. I think sometimes, uh, I guess that if I'm being totally candid, this podcast brings it out of you. I think the times where I felt the most like career driven, where I was really just kind of propelling, was before I had kids, and kids changed my perspective on a lot of things and about balance in my life, because I was the kind of person who could stay at our research lab till like midnight and then come home. I was just so fired up by what we were doing and the questions we were asking and the tools we were developing. I would never do that now with kids. I would barely stay up past 8. But I think kids really kind of changed me thinking about what kind of work environment I want, would I be happy in. And I don't have a 9 to 5. I have a remote job, but it's flexible with the hours and how I can set my schedule. And I do have to travel a bit for work, but it's remote, and that's very important to me, because I want to have a job that helps me thrive professionally, but is also conducive to having young kids who are going to be homesick and picking them up as much as I can, and
Right.
having the playful experiences with them that I write about in my work and do research on. It's so important to me. So I would not go if I was offered, well, maybe if I was offered $1 trillion, but in general, if I was offered a really wonderful salary to do a job that would make me go in person with a commute 9 to 5 every day right now, I would turn it down in a heartbeat, because
Wow.
uh, that's not the job that I seek.
Right.
That's not the way I'm going to have balance. I want to know my kids' parents. I want to know their teachers. I want to be able to. My daughter goes to a co-op preschool, so I am volunteering there a lot in the classroom. So I only choose professional experiences that are conducive to me having that balance, that time with my kids and my family. And if not, I've learned to be like saying no to stuff is I'm still
Right.
working on it, but I'm doing that more in my 30s than I ever did. I'm just, I can decline something that doesn't serve me or that I don't need to do. So that helps. And I think just the nature of the fact that the heart of the work that I love to do, especially on that entrepreneur, that side outside of my, regular job, focuses on the exact age range of my kids, means that they're involved in it. So they're part of anything that I'm working on. They're like a huge part of it. And as far as like my husband, we are just newly working on like regular date nights, scheduling it,
That's good.
reconnecting, because it's so hard after you have kids, and I feel unashamed to say they're my number one priority over my
Don't
work.
feel
I don't think that's anti-feminist to say like my
no,
kids
well,
are
they should be number one.
the most important things to me at this season in my life. That might not be when they're 25 and they're
Right.
doing their own
Having
thing.
their own family and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, I definitely get it. You had said in your answer earlier about how you used to be able to be at the lab until midnight or night 10. I was thinking about start when I was, beginning my career and pulling all nighters and things of that nature. And at one point in my life, I was like, oh, I want to have a family. I want to have like, kids and XYZ. And I don't know what it was, but I remember like I asked my mom, like, is it all right if I don't have kids? Like, do I have to have? She was like, I don't see you with kids. She was, you're too selfish. And I was like, yeah. She's like, yeah, I don't see you if you had to make a decision between you, what's best for you, and what's best for your kid. She goes, you have the pick me attitude. And as I went into my career more and more I succeeded, the less and less I wanted children.
Mm,
And I had to finally make a decision. I was like, I don't want to have children. Like, and it's nothing. And let me just say this: if you want to have kids, have kids. It's great. I don't want to be like you have to pick one or the other, but I think every person knows like where they want to go in life, or what they aren't able to sacrifice. I think being a
yeah.
parent, and that's why I respect all parents, mom or dad, like all parents, where they made the decision like I'm going to sacrifice a part of me for them or him or her, so that way they're better, I'm not going to do this for me so my kid can have these sneakers, my kid can have these coats.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not there. And
Well,
listen, at my age, I'm Not gonna be there.
I think that's so insightful because I think a lot of people, we still have such a societal pressure that having kids, get the car, get this is like the steps of life. But there's so many paths in life. And I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who have kids that maybe should have thought twice about whether
Mhm.
had that reflection that you had about whether they could truly make the sacrifices and have that whether it was right for them and for their path. With animals too, like there's so many people,
Yes, if you're
we're like, you really need to think about that. Can you do this? No one's forcing you to. Don't listen to society telling you you need to have these things to be happy. And I didn't have kids until I was in my 30s, so I think we really wanted to, like, so badly by the time that we got married. My husband and I have been together for, like, I'm going to get the math wrong, but
Uh-oh.
18, 17 years,
Okay.
something, a long time, because we met when we were younger in college. And so we waited till, now my son is 7, right? So till around 8 years ago. So we were really, really ready. But I feel like I needed to have selfish years, to put it the way your mom was saying it. I don't think I could have done parenthood the same way in my 20s, just knowing myself. I was still on a journey, and I
Mhm.
needed to do, I need to find myself. I needed to have
Right.
experiences that I wanted to have. I need to do some healing from my own childhoods and things that I've been through. I needed to have fun, and I needed to not
That's
have
what
that
it's for.
responsibility. And I completely think it's wonderful and valid for people to realize, like, they would be happy doing that their whole life. And there's so many ways to be
But I
happy,
love
and to just have
kids.
family.
Yeah, I have nieces. I have 2 nieces. They're, 13 and 8. I have little cousins, so and, like, I always think about, like, if I do get married, my partner wants to have children, there is adoption, there's other ways, but
Yeah.
just me physically giving birth is mm-mm. I think because 'cause I've seen childbirth up front and
Oh, you
it's
have?
yeah, I had my friend years ago, she gave birth, and it was an experience,
Wow.
and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do that."
Yeah. I've heard that from a couple labor and delivery nurses where they're like, "I've seen it too up close and personal. I'm gonna adopt." Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, yeah, I'd rather adopt or, like, yeah, definitely for sure, um, in my thing, but before we wrap things up, I wanted to ask, well, not ask, Shark Tank, like, let's say you have 30 seconds. Why should people I know it's meant for educators, but it's also I think it's good for parents as well. Why should they get the book?
Wow. I only have 30 seconds. I just wasted 5
Oh,
seconds of it. I would
no,
say
you
pick
don't have to stay to 30 seconds, but why should they get the book?
I think you should pick up Playful STEAM Learning in the early years because it is going to support you, whether you're an educator, a parent, informal educator, or a formal teacher, to think about STEM, and particularly think about computational thinking, computer science, and engineering, and how these high tech areas can be taught and introduced in fun, hands on, playful ways that are low cost and screen free, and infuses the arts, infuses play, and takes a child led, authentic play and learning approach. It has vignettes and scenarios from the classroom and home settings. It has activities and book lists that you can find, lists of unplugged board games and card games and tools to explore all these different topics. And at the end of the day, will help you infuse play back into the early childhood experience, which is needed so much for our young children to grow and learn. Did I do
I'm
it?
sold. I'm sold. I'm sold. I think it's a really great book, that people should, get everything that you said, and, I'm big on now that I'm in this space of actually working directly with youth, I'm doing, like, lesson plans and things of that
Mhm.
nature, and, like, thinking of activities that would make kids think and want to learn more is very, very important, especially now in society. Like, just not to go from the tangent, 'cause I do need to like wrap up the show, but I'm seeing firsthand like literacy is running thin in education system. Like we give them simple surveys, and I'm seeing like the amount of kids that can't read, that can't spell, and these are like third graders. Ask me to spell like believe and beautiful, and it's just like, oh man, this is crazy. Like, so now that I'm on the front, the forefront
Mm-hmm.
of youth development, and they're being this young, um, I'm seeing all factors because when we worked together, it was more behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
research, finding guests, doing webinars, and just providing the resources. Um, I was never physically at these different organizations that we were supporting to see how the youth like interacted with like the materials, or how they just like were with reading and writing.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing it now and then putting together lesson plans, it makes me think about, okay, keep it simple, not because they're not smart. You have to think about everyone in the classroom, and you have to think about the activity that fits everyone, and they can all like learn at some degree. So I'm very interested in the book, and I think it'll be great for anybody. And thank you, Amanda. I really appreciate you coming on the show. This little podcast, give it a year or two, it'll be something huge, and you could be like, I was on that show first.
I will. Thank you so much for having me. So such a fun conversation. I feel like we could have just gone on and chit-chatted about so
Yes.
many things.
Yes. So everyone, make sure you get the book. I'll put it up here again. Playful STEAM Learning in the Early Years: An Educator's Guide to Screen-Free Explorations. You can follow them and follow Amanda at Amanda. Did I say
Alzina, that's my middle
Amanda
name. I
Zena
don't think you've ever heard my
Sullivan.com?
middle
I
name.
never heard it. And she's on Instagram, Playful STEAM. I follow that. If you're a parent, not saying don't follow the website, but her Instagram page is full with a bunch of activities you can see firsthand. I really do love it. So this is Just Being Candid. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Make sure to like and comment. Um, in the you know how it goes on YouTube. Like and comment, and make sure you subscribe to the show Just Being Candid. As always, stay blessed, stay prosperous, stay candid, be yourself. Have a good one, guys.